Hi all, welcome to the second part of the video lecture on the sixth module computer network. So we were discussing the transport layer in detail in our sixth module. So we already seen some of the transport layer services. So now it's time to see something more, right? Let me take the pen color and all. Yes, right. So the transport service primitive. So just like any other layer, so as the layer architecture, the transport layer is also supposed to provide an interface to the layer above it, that is application layer. Now when you look at the application layer, what are all the services which are being provided by the transport layer? To allow users to access the transport services, the transport layer must provide some operations to application programs, of course, and that is through the transport service interface. So the real networks can lose packets, so the network service is generally unreliable in nature. If you look at the connection oriented transport service, they are in contrast reliable. But still we have the connection less version even. Of course, the real networks are not error free, but that is precisely the purpose of the transport layer, to provide a reliable service on top of the unreliable network. Something we already seen. What we have with us is the unreliable connectionless IP service at the network layer. So we are trying to provide a reliable service on top of it if we are making use of TCP protocol. So if you are using such some reliable protocol like TCP, right? So the connection oriented transport service is all about hiding the imperfections of the network service so that the user process can just assume the existence of an error free bit stream even when they are on different machine. So hope it is clear, right? So if you look at the network layer, there are many imperfections, including its unreliability and maybe different heterogeneity kind of issues. So all those things we are supposed to hide with the help of the transport layer, and from the user point of view, he is getting an error free bit stream, say on different machines. So that is the ultimate goal. So the transport layer can also provide unreliable datagram service, something I am telling you already. So we have unreliable UDP protocols like UDP also. If the application requirement is so, then we can go for it. So there are some applications such as say client server computing and streaming multimedia, and they build on connectionless transport service. So for example like UDP, right? And we will see how this UDP is making use of applications like client server computing or streaming multimedia and some other application, right? A second difference between the network service and the transport service. So the first difference is like about the reliability. Both are having reliable and unreliable variation, and the level of reliability. So typically the dominant internet protocol, the IP protocol, is unreliable in nature, but if you provide transport layer reliable service over it, so that will be better, right? So that is one way. And another difference between the network service and the transport service is whom the service are intended for, right? So the network service is used by the transport entities. So network layer is providing services to the layer above it. So who is sitting above it? The transport layer. So the transport entities will be making use of the service provided by the network layer. But if you look at the transport layer, the transport primitives, they are providing services to the layer above it, that is application layer. So that is nothing but the programs or the programmers, right? In contrast, many programs or the programmers see the transport layer service primitive. So consequently, transport service must be convenient and easy to use by the user because it is being directly used by the user. So this is what we are trying to say. Transport layer is sitting on top of network layer, and top of it we have the application layer, right? So below that we have data link layer and physical layer. So now this network layer services are being used by the transport layer, where transport layer services are being used by the application layer directly. So you have to provide a convenient and easy to use interface to the layer above it. So that is the difficulty we are facing. But network layer, it is not that much rigid, right? The requirement is not that much rigid. So the typical transport service primitives were like this, something I already discussed in the first module also. It's a general model used by any connection oriented layered architecture. So it may be like a network layer. If it is connection oriented, it could go through all this, particularly the transport layer also. Maybe a client server kind of communication. The server will be executing the listen primitive, so where it will be listening for a connection sent by the other party, say the client. So and there is no packet communication involved at all, because it is something that is executed at the so let me call a client is trying to get a connection with the server, right? So this is something we already discussed, that is why I'm going fast. Server will be executing this listen, waiting for a connection request from the client. So that is our default assumption. So there is no packet communicated for this listen primitive, and it will be blocked until some process tries to connect. So it will go for self blocking. As soon as a connection request is coming from the client, it will be unblocked. So the client will be sending its wish to or interest to have a connection with the server by means of the connect request. So it's a request. So as soon as the request is coming, so it's a packet will special packet will be sent that will have some parameters regarding the connection establishment, right? So it actively attempt to establish a connection with the server. So that is the meaning. So once the server is okay, it will be sending back something called an accept message, indicating that it is okay. It's not shown here, but still some that kind of an acknowledgement message is also there. But once it's okay, the connection is now ready, right? Now using that connection, the client can send something to the server and server can receive, and again server can send something to the client and client can receive. So send will involve the data, and receive is something we are taking that what is being sent by the other party. So send will involve a packet, that is actual data which is to be communicated, the information that is to be sent. But receive is just like listen, it's in a blocking mode until the data packet is received. So the send will send something, and as soon as it is reaching the other part, the process which is blocked out of the receive system call will be unblocked, and that data will be received by that particular one. And once the data transfer is over, the connection will be terminated by means of the disconnect primitive. So that will be containing some special packet for asking for the disconnection. So that requests a release of the connection. So this is the scenario. Now the state diagram of a simple connection management scheme, it looks like this. So it's a simple thing. Here you can see like the transition labeled in the italics are caused by as soon as a packet is arrived. The solid lines show the client state sequence and the dashed lines show the server state sequence. So this is what is happening. This dashed lines indicate what is happening at the server side, and solid line shows what is happening at the client side. So initially everything is in the idle state. So the connect primitive is being executed by the client, and that time the server is supposed to be in the listen state. So the active establishment is pending. Pending in the sense it is to be accepted by the client, then only the connection will be established. So now what will happen at the server side? The connect request segment is being received at the server, so that the listen the process which is executed, that listen and it is in blocked, will be unblocked. So those things will happen in the background. And here a kind of passive establishment pending state, it will go in between. So where that connector request will be analyzed, and it's if it is ready to provide service, it will be sending say kind of accept message, something like this. Anyway, it's not highlighted. The connect primitive is executed, that is a meaning, and some kind of acknowledgement is also sent. So that is a point, the connection is established between the client and server, and it will go for the data transfer and all. Now at the end, what will happen? The disconnective primitive will be executed from the client side actively, right? It can be even generated at from the server side even, but here it is only highlighting the active disconnect request from the client side and the disconnection request segment received at the server. The reverse thing will also happen when it's coming to full duplex communication and all. That will make the diagram more complex. We may see if time allows. So this is a simple scenario. So the passive disconnect is pending, so it will be analyzing and all. If it is ready, the disconnect primitive will be executed, and that will be received. So both will go to the ideal stage alone. So just a time diagram, state diagram showing the events. So particularly if you look at the popular protocol, the TCP, we are going to see only, we will see this TCP protocol in detail in our subsequent lectures. And right now I just thought of, as it is there in the textbook, I just mentioned some kind of general service primitives we already seen. But if you look at the particular practical implementation, the Berkeley Unix implemented the TCP service primitives using these system calls, and they were like the socket system call is there, bind is there, listen, accept, connect, send, receive, close. And here I think these 6 will be familiar to you. The something we already seen, the listen, the announce willingness to accept the connection, right, queue size, everything will be given. Accept the passive, the establishment of an incoming connection. Connect, the active attempt to establish a connection, and reply to connect, we have the accept. And once the connection is established, the actual data is ending and it is being received, and this is the connection disconnect primitive. And what about the socket and bind? Again, we will see in our further discussion. So socket is something like a communication endpoint. So you can visualize it as a data structure where all those things regarding that particular end-to-end connection or communication is being stored, and that will provide the way for the actual connection, I mean communication. So at the both the end system, for example, if you look at the client side and the server side, or in a peer-to-peer way at the sender side and the receiver side, the process will be trying to have a connection. So there will be something called ports, right? So this port, we will see some kind of transport layer endpoint like that, you can visualize. So initially what they will do, so they will create a socket in the sense some data structure will be created inside the space that is being allotted for the process, and you know the process data structure, right? So inside that, some socket data structure will be additionally created where all these connection related parameters will be kept, and this socket will be trying to get a connection binding with the so-called port. So that is by means of a bind system call, and this associate a particular local address with a given socket. So socket is now ready, that is a data structure part. Now it is to be uniquely identified with a local address, so particularly that port number maybe along with the network address together will be identifying a socket. We will see that. So that binding or the this particular area of memory, say this particular socket is uniquely identified by this particular number, and that process is by means of a bind system call. So that is something additionally coming. Anyway, depending on the time, if we have enough time, we will be seeing all those things in detail also. And I think you will be familiarizing with these things during your network lab also. We will be implementing the TCP and the UDP in the network lab even. Right, so that about it. Now if you look at the transport layer addressing, so something we are already familiar with it, the port number. So when the application, that is a user process wishes to set up a connections to a remote application process, it must specify which one to connect, right? So if it is connectionless, where the data is to be ultimately delivered. So the method normally used to define the transport address to which the process can listen for connection request. So these endpoints, the transport endpoints, are typically known to be the ports, and formally or in a more generic way you can call them as the transport service access point, TSAP. So port number is a particular example, but a typical transport service process access point, and you could define something different also. C is used to mean the specific endpoint in the transport layer, and it is just somewhat like the network service access point. So the endpoint, that is what we are using in the network layer. So you can see that IP address is an example for network service access point, where port number is an example for the transport service access point. So that is what we are using, but we could have a different one also. That is why they are given the general name, say transport service access point or network service access point. Yes. So this is a general typical association. So from the application process, the information is handed over to a transport service access point, say port number, say 1208, some typical number. So then a transport connection is established, some kind of binding will be done with, so binding is actually from here to here along with this. So the transport connection will be established, and towards a network service access point is typical IP address, right? The layers you can see here, and similarly at the receiver side, from here it will be connected further to another transport service access point, maybe another port, maybe more than one process associated with that. We have more than one transport service access points like this. Now the flow control, error control, those things I already told you what are all the things that we learn in the data link layer. The same procedure we are using here also, but in a different extent, right? Or in a different degree, right? We will see that. So the methods like error detecting codes, we have like the CRC or the checksum to detect the error, right, whether it is correctly received. Now we have the concept of sequence number, the same thing is here also, and with that we will do this retransmission, duplicate filtering, acknowledgement, everything, and that is something called as the automatic repeat request, right? So automatic repeat request means something, so a frame carries a sequence number to identify itself and is retransmitted by the sender until it receives an acknowledgement of successful received. So till it is getting an acknowledgement, there will be a timer, so as soon as the timer expires, it will retransmit, right? So automatically it will repeat the request for the data. So there is a maximum number of frames that the sender will allow to outstanding at any time. If it is one, that is what we call as a stop and wait protocol, but we can have this pipelining concept that improve the performance with the sliding window protocol. I'm not reading these things in detail because all these things we covered in detail in our data link layer, that's a module 2, right? So same concept is applicable here also, but even though these mechanisms are same, they are having differences in the functionality and the degree when they are used in the transport layer. For example, if you look at the checksum, the link layer checksum protects a frame while it crosses a single link. So that is only from one hop to another, so towards a single link only. But the transport layer checksum protects a segment while it crosses the entire network path. So it is providing an ultimate end-to-end error detection or flow control, whatever it is, or end-to-end care is being provided by the transport layer. So it is an end-to-end check, which is not the same as having a check at every link. So that is different, right? Yes, that about it. So some of the functionalities we gone through, like error control, so all those things are there. In addition to that, we have multiplexing. So those things I didn't highlight it. You can read the textbook for more details. Multiplexing, how from different process the informations will be collected and given to the network layer, right, many to one, and at the receiver side, that demultiplexing part. Of course congestion control is there, but anyways we will see them again when we discuss the TCP protocol, because TCP is nicely doing this error control, flow control, congestion control, everything using very nice protocols, and we will see inside the TCP discussion, right? So with that we will wind up our discussion on the general transport layer services, and particularly we will move on to the first protocol, TCP, and followed by that the UDP protocol, or in any order, right? Those two protocols are to be covered further. Yes, thanks for watching. You will get more details from the Tunnelbound Textmo. It's very vast and you can read if you have time.